All right, welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into something that affects pretty much all of us. Exactly how social media hijacks your brain through dopamine. If you've ever felt totally guilty after a 2-hour doom scrolling session and blamed it on your quote-unquote broken brain chemistry, trust me, you are absolutely not alone. So, let's look at what the science actually says and figure out what's really happening behind the screens.
It's become a massive talking point lately, right? This idea that social media is just pumping us full of so much dopamine that we're literally addicted to the chemical itself, just like a drug. Honestly, it sounds completely plausible. But we really have to ask, is that actually what's happening here? Is your phone truly causing a literal dopamine overdose?
Well, the short and blunt answer from peer-reviewed science is no. It's actually a fundamental misunderstanding of how our brains work. The whole concept of being addicted to dopamine is essentially just scientific clickbait. Now, while it's undeniably true that technology triggers compulsive behaviors, leading neurobiologists agree that blaming it all on a dopamine addiction just completely misses the mark.
I mean, we see viral infographics like this one all over the internet, right? They warn us that everyday pleasures, like listening to a great song or eating good food, will trigger a dopamine release and somehow permanently destroy our tolerance over time. It creates this really fearful narrative that just feeling joy from simple things is going to break your brain's reward center and leave you totally numb. It sounds terrifying, but the really good news? It is scientifically inaccurate.
So let's clear up the absolute biggest misconception right out of the gate. Dopamine is not a pleasure chemical. It does not cause feelings of happiness or euphoria. It's actually your brain's engine for motivation. It is all about the craving, the anticipation, not the actual satisfaction. It's what drives us to seek out our goals and helps us figure out how to achieve them.
Dr. Anna Lembke, she's the chief of the Addiction Medicine Dual Diagnosis Clinic at Stanford, she perfectly summarizes this. She says, dopamine is about wanting, not about having. Think about that physical urge you get to check your phone when you hear it buzz from across the room. That friction, that sudden, intense need to know who just texted you. That is dopamine at work. It's definitely not the feeling you get once you actually read the message.
Okay, so neuroscience actually breaks this down into two distinct modes of operation, and this explains exactly how social media hijacks your brain. First up is phasic firing. Think of it like a lightning strike. These are rapid, momentary bursts of dopamine that happen when we encounter a predictor of a reward, like the ping of a notification. This lightning strike trains your brain to repeat a behavior. Then you have tonic firing. Think of this one as your brain's battery. It's a slow, steady background rhythm that determines your overall baseline motivation and your willingness to exert effort. What happens is social media algorithms aggressively target that phasic lightning strike to stamp in the habit of scrolling, which inevitably drains your tonic battery, totally exhausting your cognitive resources.
So here is the really crucial distinction we need to make. Excessive scrolling, endless video feeds, late-night gaming, they are absolutely harmful to your attention span, but they manipulate your brain's reward loop to create a behavioral addiction, not a chemical dopamine overdose. Social media companies essentially operate exactly like a slot machine in a casino. They use frequent, unpredictable rewards to keep you swiping. You never really know when the next funny video or validating comment is going to pop up, and that unpredictability is what drives the behavioral compulsion. Your brain isn't overdosing, your habits are just being effectively weaponized against you.
And because of this massive misunderstanding, we've seen the rise of this completely unscientific dopamine fasting trend. You've probably seen the videos of people locking themselves in empty rooms, avoiding music, junk food, and even social interaction, claiming they're resetting their dopamine receptors. But medical science just doesn't support this. In fact, the neurodiversity community warns that this can actually be pretty harmful. For folks with ADHD whose dopamine pathways are naturally dysregulated, the suggestion that they just need to detox from dopamine is biologically nonsensical, and it completely misses the real root of their executive functioning challenges.
So, what actually works then? Well, instead of sitting in a dark room avoiding all joy, researchers are finding incredible success with gamified digital wellness interventions. Take the Detox Play app, for example. It bridges behavioral psychology right with the technology itself. Instead of just blocking your apps and hoping for the best, it uses structured, mindful challenges to replace that endless passive scrolling loop. It gives your brain an active, healthy challenge, like instant memory recall or mindful breathing exercises, to consciously break the habit.
The data backing this up is honestly pretty phenomenal. If we look at the numbers here, before this intervention, 19-year-olds made up over 30% of the heavy digital users in the study. But after using this mindful, gamified approach, that number absolutely plummeted to just 13%. It really proves that you don't need to eliminate technology entirely. You just need structured, intentional friction to break that behavioral loop.
And here is why this matters for your day-to-day life. The study also found that as these passive digital habits decreased, users saw a massive drop in procrastination. Moving away from constant, unpredictable digital rewards actually allows your brain to recalibrate its baseline motivation. That's that steady tonic dopamine battery we talked about earlier. By regaining control, these young adults unlocked a huge improvement in their attention span and their ability to tackle prolonged, meaningful tasks.
So if you're looking to break the cycle yourself, science recommends a few gradual, evidence-based steps instead of trying some punishing dopamine detox. First up, use app blockers to introduce some friction and limit distractions. Second, schedule dedicated tech-free hours to let your mind actually wander and rest. And third, and honestly, this is probably the most important one, replace passive scrolling with active, challenging hobbies. Learning a new skill actually strengthens healthy dopamine pathways, which gives you a sustainable drive rather than a cheap, fleeting digital hit.
You can even actively hack your true dopamine system using some incredibly practical techniques, like the ones from Dr. Andrew Huberman. First is random intermittent reward timing. Remember how social media uses unpredictable rewards to hook you? Well, you can use that on yourself. Celebrate your wins randomly, not every single time you hit a milestone. It keeps your internal motivation incredibly high. Second is spotlighting, literally narrowing your visual focus to a specific point on your desk to trigger the neurochemicals that lock in your attention. And third, avoid layering. Seriously, don't stack energy drinks, loud music, and social media all at once while you're trying to work. It spikes your dopamine way too high and pretty much guarantees a crash that will kill your long-term drive.
So the big takeaway here, your brain isn't fundamentally broken by some mythical chemical overdose. You are just navigating a world of highly engineered behavioral traps. But you understand the mechanism now. You have the power to consciously guide your own motivation and focus. So, I'll leave you with this question to consider as you step away from your screens today. What will you build with your reclaimed focus?